What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Super Theory podcast. It's been a couple weeks, but we are back. It's your two hosts, I'm Brandon, and we also got with me, as always, Chris Green.
What's up, man?
Oh man, I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. Long time, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Had to take a break. Not much was going on, and then everything was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got big news out of DC, it looks like.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we're pumped.
yeah. There's actually a little bit of big news on both sides, but we're probably going to start out with our favorite side. Which, if you're regular listeners, you know by now. It is DC and the Snyder Cut. As
Yes, and I,
always.
I do remember, if we backtrack a little, when the news of the Snyder Cut came out, I think there was a reported $30 million that they had given Zack Snyder to kind of finish up post-production.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we saw a lot of quote-unquote newsbreakers have to eat shit.
Oh
Since they
man.
were part of the Never Snyder Cut fans or Never Snyder Cut movement. Uh, but I kind of remember hearing a rumor that it was up to 50 million, and then we just sort of thought, oh well, we'll never know probably. But big
Yeah.
news, it's going to be $70 million that they give
$70
him.
million with. I read something, and I didn't bet it, so I didn't try real hard, but I read something by someone who seems to know what they're talking about as far as cost on video effects uh, shoots or video effects shots, like something around like $1 million a minute, um,
Damn.
which is pretty crazy, right? I mean, I have no
So a
idea if.
minute of screen time.
Yes, I believe so. I
Okay.
believe so. Again, I didn't look that hard, but I did see it, and it sounded interesting, and it also sounds believable with the way Zack Snyder shoots movies and how clean he makes his CGI. He doesn't. If you watch Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, I mean, he doesn't really cut any corners.
Well, do we
Everything.
remember what the budget was originally for it? Because I mean, if you think uh, if that's true, I mean, you're looking at a 2 hour movie being $120 million, and then everything they add post that. So that number is probably good, unless he's talking specifically reshoots.
Right, and that's the other thing is it's not necessarily reshoots, but additional shooting. The
Okay.
original budget for Justice League was 300. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, nope, nope. Yeah, $300 million,
Wow.
and it grossed $229 million in the U.S. and Canada. Um, it made a little bit of money, but they're spending, at least right now, the quote is 70 million to do additional shooting in October to uh, restructure what he has shot into the 4 hour episodes. So probably some extra pickup scenes and dialogue, and added, from what I also have heard and read, added characters that were dropped from the original cut because they didn't have the time or the money. Uh,
Well, this is like the perfect chance to have your Ryan Reynolds show up, or
yes.
have your full Martian Manhunter stuff show up, because I would have assumed that originally, had he shot the scene that's purported that he showed on his drawings that he showed, where it was
Mm-hmm.
Martian Manhunter talking at the cafe, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
that they would have CGI'd maybe him transforming there, and maybe it wouldn't have been a practical suit.
Right.
But maybe this gives a chance for more of a practical suit. I know that if Ryan Reynolds does make a cameo, he'd probably like a more practical suit after some
Right.
jokes he made in Deadpool. So that's what I would imagine this would be. I did see where Henry Cavill, I think it was the day before or the night before this news broke of the
Mm-hmm.
reshoots. He
Mm-hmm.
asked if he was doing reshoots, and he said no. But
Right.
I would imagine that this wasn't official WB. Here we're making an announcement. It's 70 million. I mean, somebody got the scoop.
Right.
So I would imagine everyone's kind of tight-lipped on it.
Yeah, and as weird of things have been in the background of like stuff going on with Ray Fisher and WB, and like one of our former scoopers putting out, not our scoopers, but our former scoopers we followed, put out kind of like a hit piece on him. Like, uh, it's interesting to see disinformation happen in movie news. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 'cause you kind of expect it in other avenues, but just sort of the push that you get from sort of the larger money area, kind
Yeah,
of getting down towards the smaller kind of by himself guy. It's
right.
pretty gross, and that's why like public perception plays such a huge role in kind of vilifying somebody because eventually if the Ray Fisher scenario gets sorted after a year, 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
what will stick in everyone's mind is what was said about him at the very beginning because that's your first impression, and almost
Right.
it'll be a blip unless some heads roll as a result of the truth coming out.
Right. I think Momoa speaking up is probably gonna really boost uh, the the non-business side as far as like the Ray Fisher side. Um,
Well, imagine fucking backing Jeff Johns on anything right now. Like, who the fuck
Man,
says they like working with him?
from what I hear, nobody.
Yeah, so I'm confused at that. I'm
Yeah.
confused at the loyalty that he sort of seems to get because, as far as being very talented when it comes to knowledge of DC and working with DC Comics, he's
Hmm.
he's the guy.
Yeah.
But man, you still have to have a good working relationship with people.
Well, what's so funny is like he was a writer. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this writer has this following that is odd. But at the same time, there are other writers who had followings. I read a
Yep.
perfect thing today that was saying, H.P. Lovecraft uh, showcased people of color as villains, and now in Lovecraft country, they get to show people of color as heroes in their own story.
Yep.
Uh, so I mean, Hitler wrote a book. I mean, I'm not saying someone is like Hitler, but I'm just saying he wrote something too that people liked.
He did do some artwork.
Yeah, he was an artist, but it's
Well, just what about the need to maybe you bring in new heads of the company, to try to remodel what DC's doing. You elevate Jim Lee into a bigger role. Um,
a perfect role, almost I would
a
say,
perfect role for
honestly.
him, absolutely. And talk about someone that has a fan following. Like
Right.
we were just talking the other day about trying to get some screen printed Jim Lee stuff.
Yeah.
Um, that's just the movement that they need to go towards is out with the old, and we just need fresh faces when it comes to stuff like that, especially
Jeff.
when you have enough complaints.
Yeah. Jeff Johns needs to go like every piece of underwear on a superhero.
Yep.
It's play. Shit gets played out, and unfortunately, I believe he's one of them.
Well, and you have to, so it's a balance of introducing, old material to new fans,
Mm-hmm.
and then, but your fans that you had at the very beginning mature,
Mm-hmm.
and then their tastes change, and you still have to also keep them available because they're the people with money.
Right.
Kids don't have money to go do stuff like that and purchase everything, and no one goes and buys standalone comics as much anymore either. So
It's
yeah,
hard.
Bane
It's hard to do.
fucking adapt.
Yeah. I mean, to honestly, like it. I think a really great example is like Aquaman. Like, obviously, Jason Momoa is such a good fit for Aquaman, and that's why Zack Snyder like envisioned it. Like, of course, this guy is like today's Aquaman. He's from the islands. You know what I mean? Like, he resembles more of a person, from an island territory than, uh, a super California. Like Aquaman in the
Right.
comics looks like a California surfer. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yep.
what they based him off of. They didn't base
Yep.
him off of. They didn't base him off of anyone who actually lived off of like, island or coastal areas like for reals. That it just it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Right. And and
And
I f- and I feel like what happens in movies or companies that make things stale, they focus on, all right, which actor looks like the comic book character that we've already seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would try to match the actor versus just thinking what actor would be the best for that role.
Right.
MMO does a good job at Aquaman. I mean, I have mixed reviews about Aquaman's standalone movie, but
Sure.
I
Me
think
too.
I think it's just really a lot of angst because at the time I didn't know where's DC going. I was
Right.
so upset about how the things happened with Justice League that I was like, so what are we keeping up with this or what are we doing? So maybe
Yeah.
that played a role into it.
I was thinking the same thing when I saw Aquaman. Uh, Visually stunning.
Right.
Story, I was like, this doesn't feel like James Wan. I feel like he would have went a little harder.
Well, there
And
was the rumors with the Trench side movie, and that was going to be
right,
more of a horror movie. That would have been right up his alley. I got
right,
excited when he was attached to the project because I was like, oh, we're about to see some fucking scary sea monsters and.
right. And
But
I
yeah,
have
I
no,
mean,
I have nothing but love for James Wan. I just after Justice League to see that Aquaman come out, it didn't feel. It
right.
feel like some changes probably had to be made, even though it
Yep.
still came out relatively well because it was still about Aquaman. Like
Yep.
I just I felt like it was missing a little something.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Because you went into it with expectations based on what the director has done in previous works, and because of his horror genre, we were like, oh shit, this would be like at the time. I'm glad the direction that Batman is going, but had they announced a James Wan Batman directed movie, I'd have
Oh
been
my
like, fuck,
god,
that'd
that
be some
shit would have
scary
went
ass shit.
so hard.
Especially they let people do a little bit more in Batman films, and maybe it was because it's Aquaman, first time we're going to see him on TV in the modern era, I guess. Maybe they were a little bit more protective of. I don't know, but I definitely had those same thoughts.
Yeah, I uh I thought about James Wan directing a Batman film a lot. Um, I him making I honestly Batman should have a horror movie at some point. Uh,
Well, think about if James Wan did like a the Deceased comic
yeah.
line.
Oh
Where,
yeah,
think about him doing that, or
that
even
would be sick.
with if he would do a Justice League Dark. I know Guillermo del Toro was attached to that for a
Yeah,
while, and they're not doing it. But yeah, just give him something that's in his alley.
totally. I uh I think what would be amazing for him as far as if he ever got to do a Batman movie horror style, uh I think you do a good Scarecrow or
Yeah,
even Doctor Strange.
yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
if you think about Batman in general, he could have really played up the horror element to Batman really trying to strike fear in people's,
Yeah, that's right.
you
The
know,
horror wouldn't just be on the bad guy's side. It would be on
right.
what Ben Affleck's Batman. I mean, he scares the people of Gotham. Uh,
Yeah, people were
People are
scared of
straight
him.
up frightened.
Yep.
But yeah. But hey, anything's possible now.
Yeah, man. 70 million set aside, and uh,
And that's
that's
just
gonna
that. I think that's still just allegedly. You know what I mean?
right.
I
I
don't
could
think
see
there's a
that
final price
number.
tag anywhere.
I mean, imagine Snyder being like this, being able to show some HBO execs or whoever he's having to show a final cut of that,
Oh my
or at
god.
least a in process cut, and they're like, "Do you need anything else?"
Right.
You know?
Exactly. I and I'm gonna share a thought that is probably that is nowhere new. I mean, and I say nowhere new because it's all over Twitter already. Unfortunately, I mean Twitter's just that way, but and in a good way. But like, you don't throw $70 million at a project and not expect it to bear more fruit. You know,
Right. Yeah.
like
This isn't now a mere wrap up project
no,
because
yeah,
I mean, at 30 million, I was kind of thinking, all right, that tells me that he didn't have a lot of his CGI done. This makes sense. He's wrapping up that. He gets to work on it from the house. And with everyone saying there were no reshoots, I was like, this makes perfect sense. They're going to kind of wrap it up in a way that at least appeases people a little bit.
hmm
But now you more than doubled that budget.
yeah,
So it just you wouldn't have brought in principal characters to do some additional shots if you weren't perhaps leaving Easter eggs in those additional shots for future movies using those characters. And with the news with Flash, with Michael Keaton, and now Ben Affleck, we know that there could be possibly some Easter eggs with Ben Affleck and the Flash that
Oh,
we're going to
and
see moving forward and all that.
here's the thing about the Flash and Ben Affleck being on there now, and it's still not going to start filming till next year. Literally right now, it's even been quoted by WB in that Boris Kit uh, thing today. They said usually everything is in flux and is constantly changing. The one of those main aspects is probably the script that is in the Flash.
Yep.
Uh, just because they have Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton, if Ben Affleck is this excited to come back as Batman, uh, I don't think he's just going to do it for HBO Max. But I really think there's a humongous great chance that uh, the whole Snyderverse will probably get restored. You know, he'll get to finish his 5 film arc. Uh, but there's so much time in between all those for things to change in Zack Snyder's mind. Uh, you know what I mean? There's
Yep.
just so much newness and freshness of life within the project and what is available from it to use in other things that I really think this is a whole new ball game, all the way
Well, think
around.
about how much has changed. They announced the Snyder Cut on May 20th.
Yeah.
And look at how much has changed from then till now, the announcements, with fandom happening, with all of that. I mean, it just shows you who knows where we're going to be by next year when
Oh
Snyder
my
Cut
God.
actually gets released. I mean, the buildup of it, we're going to see full trailers by then. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
I bet you we get a full trailer by Christmas, if not on Christmas Day. I feel
yeah.
like this is the type of project that is so much driven by the love of the fans and Zack Snyder's love for fans being able to bring this back to him that he would literally give us a Christmas present like that. You know what I mean?
Well, what is HBO? Um, what do they have like big coming up that they would tie maybe to that type of release? Because usually for big movie releases and trailers, like I'll just say specifically for Endgame and Infinity War, they tied it to the Monday Night Football commercial. They tied it to a large event where they know they'd have a lot of eyes. So I wonder what HBO is going to do to maybe push that trailer out. Um, that usually is reserved for, all right, it's going to get tied to with this big release or that big release.
I don't even know if they tie it to a release, and I bet you they just put ad money behind it and push it out to all the major websites. Put it on the front page of. They probably would put the trailer, just the trailer itself, on the front page of HBO Max when you log in. Uh, it would get shared by all the stars, obviously through social media. Uh, I don't
Oh
think
yeah,
you have to.
YouTube alone will get
Yeah,
50 million views.
yeah. I don't think they attach it to anything as much as they just push the promotion of the full trailer on like a Christmas Day type thing.
Okay.
If anything, I bet you Zach hypes it up like a week before, like he's done with this one, and or like the 12 Days of Christmas. Maybe he does like an image a day. You know what I mean? And then when it
Right.
gets to Christmas Day, it's just 5 minute
Oh, okay,
trailer.
that's a good idea.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Hopefully he listens. But yeah, anything's possible. Still, I still think we'll get an air cut. I don't know when or how, but have a feeling now that he's getting to do all this with extra money and he's getting to bring people back for additional shooting. That in my mind, also with a lot of other people's minds, like this isn't the end. Justice League 2 and 3 probably get greenlit or some imagination along those lines because I'm sure stories can change just like they are already. Um,
Right. Well,
I just,
there were big issues that we thought from the very beginning that they had to address, and number one was Ben Affleck's Batman. If you're
right.
moving forward with all the other characters, what are you doing with that Batman? But secondarily, it was Jared Leto's Joker.
Right.
And I know for a fact there were more Joker references in Zack Snyder's version of Justice League because of the many couple hour podcasts that he did with the guys after fandom,
Mm-hmm.
where he kind of, you know, intimated that there were more of Jared Leto type stuff in the movie. I don't know if they actually had Jared Leto on set, but some more references to him at least. If that's Ben Affleck's Joker, then where are they going with him? So I wonder if what if they could sneak Jared Leto into because he's already getting in shape for his Tron shoot. He
Mm-hmm.
was trying to lift some weights. The Joker, whenever he shot, he was a little bit more muscly.
Yeah.
So I
I
would be fine.
obviously there's also like the clean way to break up the multiverse where you have Snyderverse on HBO Max exclusively, and then you have solo films out in the theaters. But also, will theaters ever come back like they ever were? Probably going to take a while. So yeah, we're going to put some more money into HBO Max. I think I I think what was said before could also be misinformation. Michael Keaton's coming back, but maybe he's not the mentor. Maybe that's part of what's getting changed is that now that Ben Affleck's so excited to be Batman again, he's going to take on the mentor role, and Keaton's going to be in a cameo uh, style version and not necessarily a mentor to the group because it doesn't make sense to have the most action like character come back as a mentor and just kind of hanging out.
Well,
Um,
yeah, because how much time would have to, I guess they, and I don't know if it's a Whedon shot or not, but I guess they sort of showed, Batman had cracked ribs and he couldn't get his suit off, and Diana had to come and help him, and he
Oh
had
my
said,
god,
"I've
that
been
is the
doing this for
worst
too
Josh
long."
shot. That is not
If if
that
if
can't be
that's a
Zach's.
if that yeah, if that's a Whedon shot, if it's a Zach shot, then we do see him sort of saying, "I'm tired of kind of doing this role. I'm not fixing to gear back up to fight the whole time." But it also makes sense if you think about the Flashpoint storyline in general. The Bruce Wayne, the Batman that the Flash in the story knows is his Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't get to see that Batman, but at the very beginning and the very end.
Right.
It would make a lot of sense if they sort of made Keaton into the full-time Flashpoint Batman, so to say, because he's way more prevalent in it, but he's much older than Ben
Right.
Affleck. So
Right.
that's where I'm with you. I don't see how,
It doesn't
unless
make
both of
sense.
them are the quote unquote mentors of their own reality, but you know, I also don't see, unless Ben looks at Flash as sort of like this is another young crime fighter. I lost Robin. I need to take this guy under my wing. But I don't see that happening unless 10 years have passed.
Yeah. I I think as far as everything being in flux, I really do think Ben Affleck will probably take on the main role and still continue to be the main DCEU Batman, especially now that it's been said Pattinson is his own world. And then, because I think Keaton's going to end up more busy in Spider-Man world than he probably thinks. I think he's
Oh,
going to
for
be a
sure.
big part of the Sinister Six when they get that up and moving. He just, he was the first villain and he didn't die, so I have a feeling he's going to be around for a while. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Uh, and I don't know. I really do feel and think that Ben will probably stick around for a little bit longer. Uh, not, you know what I mean?
I
Like
hope
at
so,
least to
man.
fulfill some real shit that he wanted to do as this character.
Yeah, I could see. So if you had to give me a probability, I would say there is more of a probability that he takes a larger role in Flashpoint than I see
Yeah,
him taking on a brand new HBO individual series with Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke. I see
I
more of him being able to wrap up the vision of the Snyder Cut versus starting something brand new because he may want Zack Snyder to fucking direct the
yeah.
HBO piece, or
He
I'm not
may.
sure.
I
So
think
probability
Ben may
wise, I
want to
see
direct
that.
it.
Right, that's true too.
You
It
know,
just depends. Like I think he realizes he's a lot more well received than maybe
people.
he felt
Yeah,
after the initial BVS
yeah.
stuff came out.
I
So
and
maybe that
yeah,
plays a role.
yeah. I 100% agree with that. And I think when people get to see the Snyder Cut and see Zack Snyder's Batman go to work in 4 hours of footage, like
Yeah.
everyone's just gonna be like, "Fuck yeah, he's Batman!" Like
Oh yeah.
let let Warner make some fucking money. Get Pattinson and Bale or not Bale, but Affleck both in there and let them do their own shit.
Yeah, and I mean, who the fuck if they announced a Ben Affleck Batman project tomorrow? Who the fuck is not pumped? It'd be the number one trending thing on Twitter.
Yeah, and it's already been the number one thing trending on Twitter,
Yeah,
and it hasn't even happened. So,
Just the
I also
Flashpoint news.
yeah I think Warner Media is smart and they obviously know how many people want that shit. And with all these internal investigations going on, I think Ben Affleck's gonna get vindicated. I think Ray Fisher will get vindicated, but I think Ben Affleck will get vindicated in his own way as far as like I wanted to leave Batman because of how shit was on Justice League, and it wasn't because of Zack Snyder. It was because of what happened after Zack Snyder.
Yep.
It was like it really did look like two different people. You know what I mean?
Yep. I agree.
So, anyways, happy times. Um,
Yep. Only positive news, and between now and you know December, a lot of news could change.
True. But yeah, as far as DC, that's probably it for that. But honestly, on I wouldn't say the bad side, but not the amazing side is the Marvel situation. Uh,
Yeah, they
Disney's
really
changing it up.
yeah they really to just show how sort of I think well run we kind of look at the Marvel cog to be at this point. Really shows that while they have a plan, they realize that what the streaming platforms can provide is some unique ability to shuffle some things around, especially choosing to not just do movies that project right after the events of the last movie. You know, they're
Mm-hmm.
confident in showing a prequel that maybe sets up something in the future. Um, and so I think that's exactly what happened with Black Widow. I remember when Black Widow was announced that I was kind of like, okay, well, she quote unquote died in Endgame. We don't know for sure, but we assume this is a prequel because that's what everyone says. And then I thought, well, they must be setting up something in the future. And so I thought it makes sense why they would do this now. Then they had Falcon and Winter Soldier after that for streaming. They had sort of a calculated plan to lay out when everything would be released, getting us to the Eternals originally, February of next year. And then I think Shang-Chi was after that in July, maybe? Maybe it was May.
May or June or something
Okay.
like that.
But they definitely had all of their slots filled for their releases. And so this
Right.
sort of shows, quick thinking, what can they shift around? And now we're going to get WandaVision. And their first trailer, I think first full look was a couple days ago.
Yeah. And I mean, it's super intriguing. Um, I think I think it's probably a little bit of an advantage for Marvel to kind of I wouldn't say catch up to DC because obviously they've got much more going on than DC as far as like years and time put into it. But at the same time, like now that DC's got this whole new direction and they're straight up claiming, multiverse is coming, it's happening. Um,
Yep.
that maybe Marvel wants to get to the multiverse a little bit sooner and can shape their release schedule in that tone.
Right. Yeah, because there's always the competition between the two groups,
Right.
especially from the higher ups monetarily. But I think both studios realize if both of them put out good content, that's only good for everybody.
Yep.
DC has yet to maybe enter the world of. I know they don't have necessarily a streaming platform that's been as successful now as Disney Plus is probably going to be.
Mm-hmm.
HBO Max will probably change that, but um, I think I think where Marvel is very smart in this technique is that they have such a broad story to tell that you can't cover in a 2.5 hour movie even. That
Right.
doing 6 episode shorts is really going to dive into. I think people are going to start looking forward to the series more so than the standalone movies because
Yeah.
you're going to get so much more depth in those characters. And I think we had started maybe it was our third podcast where we talked about how the mutants were going to get introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And it had never occurred to me that we already technically have mutants.
Right.
They just weren't allowed to call them mutants yet
Yeah.
with Wanda and her brother, what was it?
Maxima or
Yeah, Pietrov or
yeah. I don't know what it
Quicksilver.
says.
What
Yeah.
did I say?
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver. Uh, being Magneto's kids. And obviously the Fox movies were still out there, so we got to see a Magneto version, but they couldn't call them mutants. And now, even if they've sort of recognized that it was the Mind Stone or the Reality Stone that not the reality stone, the Mind Stone that gave them their powers. I think maybe they retcon that a little bit, and maybe this is sort of how they introduce mutants. I know that in the trailer you sort of saw the wine bottle was written in, I'm going to say French. I'll have to go
Mm-hmm.
back and look. But it broke down to House of M. And
Interesting.
that comic is a huge one for the Marvel Universe as far as basically restructuring or reordering how many mutants existed within the universe, and I think maybe they do a sort of retcon and go backwards, and that's maybe how she will introduce mutants.
I don't know much about the House of M. That wasn't anything I ever got into. I mean, I
Well, let
read
me
some
let me
X
let me
Men and
just
stuff, but
summarize it for you.
yeah, yeah.
Let me briefly summarize. So, in the comic, and I'm sure someone could probably explain it even in better depth than me, but she started creating her own little realities for herself, searching for the perfect happy family, happy situation for herself. Um, and the other X-Men, the ones that we know, Wolverine, Professor X, etc., started realizing that the reality that they were in was being manipulated constantly by Wanda. And so she became sort of a de facto villain, not realizing what she was doing, affecting
Hmm.
everybody else. They finally try to do this big attack, and at the last minute, she changes reality again. And within that new reality, she realizes that she's messing up, that she's caused chaos for everybody. So, in order to reset the timeline, she thinks the best thing to do is to say no more mutants. And it literally, Thanos snap type of erasure the Marvel X-Men that we knew down to a very few amount. And so, what I
Whoa.
mean by kind of going backwards from that is instead of her uttering no more mutants, she's going to say no, semicolon, more mutants. And maybe
Interesting.
that's how they start populating. Because she
Interesting.
can't say no more mutants at this point because there are none.
Right.
And you wouldn't do a reality kind of show of Scarlet Witch without maybe that moment. Probably happens in the last moments of episode 6, but they do say that it goes directly into what Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness is doing. So everyone is theorizing that that's kind of what will happen. They'll introduce Mephisto, which is for all intents and purposes the devil of the Marvel universe,
Oh,
and
okay.
then Agnes, no, Agathor Harkness is uh, I forget the actress's name, but she's really funny. She's the side character that's kind of showing up. She was the witch
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
trailer.
Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, she's kind of Mephisto's witch slash go get things done soldier type person. So there's going to be a lot of manipulation, probably reassuring Scarlet Witch that everything's fine. But you do notice a moment in the trailer where they're sitting at the dinner table and the older couple that they're having dinner with sort of ask like these hardcore questions that they can't answer. And
Mm-hmm.
if you'll remember back in oh man, I just forgot the name of the movie. What was the Inception? If you
Mm-hmm.
remember back in Inception, when Leo's talking to the girl that they're trying to get up to speed, he
Mm-hmm.
asked her a very simple question like, "How'd you get here?" And she couldn't answer it. And so, because she couldn't answer it, everything around her started
Start
crashing.
crashing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a similar vibe I'm getting. Like they're going to
Okay.
start realizing, oh, what is happening? Because Vision is alive, but we know that for sure he's dead. And he
Right.
also has the Mind Stone in his head, which we know
Right.
was taken out. So it's not reality.
That is, man, what an interesting story.
Crazy, right? And
Yeah.
you know it's going to be bonkers visuals.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I personally think that this is a cool move for Marvel. It's going to at least give us content, this year. Because at this
Yeah.
point, we've had no content.
Yeah. Yeah. That's man. That's so interesting. I'm looking at the IMDb page cast list right now,
Mm-hmm.
and so it says those people we already talked about are in it, but also Kat Dennings is in it as Darcy Lewis,
Yeah,
who
dude. Thor
is
connection.
that's right. And then it says Randall Park, who played Jimmy Woo, is in it.
Yep.
And then Doctor Strange, who I'm guessing comes in probably at the end. And then,
Probably. I mean, what it makes it seem like to me is that they're going to have to bring in established characters to maybe try to calm
hmm
Scarlet down.
hmm
That's where like the character Monica Rambeau comes in, who is a superhero in the comics, but she's the daughter of Carol Danvers' friend in
right,
Captain Marvel.
yeah,
So we see her in the trailer get kicked out of the quote unquote reality, and everyone is speculating that that is Sword, that the entity Sword, which is kind of the galactic version of Shield, that is creating this perimeter around quote unquote Wanda's reality in order to not let her affect everyone's reality.
gotcha.
But but we know it probably doesn't work since Doctor Strange is going to have to clean up all the multiverses.
That's so crazy.
But a really cool storyline, and you wouldn't be able to tell that story in one movie. So this is what's cool about the six series. There's six episodes. Is it's almost like a comic book, but they're going to be hour and a half long episodes reportedly, and it's going to feel like you're sitting down for six movies.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So with the new timeline shuffling as far as release dates, they
hmm
moved Eternals back from February all the way to November, I guess, of next year.
Yeah.
Um, Black Widow, I believe. I don't know about you, but obviously it's setting up something in the future, and kind of seeing General Ross again. I think it's just going to go towards the Thunderbolts that everyone's been speculating on. The leader of the Thunderbolts in the comics at some point is Bucky. So I think that's why maybe Black Widow was attempted to be shown first, and then they were going to release Falcon and Winter Soldier. Um, I think they have to tie those two things together because of Bucky's involvement and
So
and Baron Zemo.
who are the Thunderbolts?
So General Ross, um, that
Oh, and Hulk,
that
or not
yeah,
Hulk?
that becomes he's Red Hulk eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
He gets exposed to radiation, and my personal theory is that when he describes in Infinity War having the, or no, I guess that was Ultron. In Age of Ultron, when he describes having the heart attack and then
hmm
needing a bypass, that perhaps he got some radiation there that's gonna, maybe he said, infuse him with some stuff. In other words, he's hiding his ability to turn into Red Hulk. I
Oh,
don't think
okay.
that there's going to be some big exposure unless something happens in Black Widow that exposes him to radiation, which very well could be. But he puts a team together that is like Baron Zemo, who we know is in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
hmm
Uh, Bucky Barnes is in it, and it's sort of like a Suicide Squad ish version of these are kind of off the books people, and I could easily see Bucky kind of being upset that maybe he didn't get the mantle of Captain America and maybe
Going a
twisting
little
off.
rogue.
Yeah, because I know that he's not going to be brainwashed again after Shuri did all of her scientific work on him.
Yeah.
So you would have to imagine there'd be at least some leverage, maybe, or who knows. But I think that's what comes out of it. I know Taskmaster was at one point part of the team as well, and which by all accounts he probably does survive the Black Widow movie. And so you kind of have a formidable team occur, and especially after the events of I guess it was Endgame where General Ross suggested Captain America be court-martialed.
Mm.
He's probably like, I don't have control of the Avengers anymore,
Yeah.
so I need my own team.
Yeah. Makes sense. That's crazy.
So yeah,
And then
pretty
I
exciting. I
guess
mean, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So that means
Yeah,
Baron
go ahead.
Zemo kind of becomes like an anti-hero good guy maybe or
See, that's what I can't figure out is how on the good side could they be? So if Bucky is a part of it, which it seems like he would be unless they do something different, he just got done fighting for the good guys. He doesn't seem to have any badness left in him. But you're
hmm
working with people that are solely bad, except you could see where Baron Zemo was coming from, a revenge plot because his family in Sokovia was killed.
Right.
And then we don't know where Taskmaster is coming from, so maybe he has a reason why he's doing something, and so maybe he looks at it like, listen, my moral compass in Steve is now an old man and probably dead. I don't have to follow that lead. I'm sort of wandering as a one-armed person in the world, and I need to be part of a team. I mean, Captain
Right.
America said that he was most comfortable at a army base. I mean, that was his life. He didn't have a normal life. So I just wonder if it'll be something similar.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I mean, while I like DC more, I like that Marvel is putting out enough content to kind of satisfy people. Because at this point, I would have loved for Black Widow to be just put on the streaming device because I would have paid money for that where I
Yeah.
didn't pay the money for Mulan.
Yeah. Yeah, I paid for Mulan, and honestly, I only did it for the lady and her family because they all came over to watch. But I would have been much more enthused to pay the money for Black Widow, which I'm sure a lot
Right,
of people feel the same way.
right, absolutely. I mean, there were 54 million views of the WandaVision trailer alone in a day or something, and in some trailers don't get that in a month. So you can
Yeah,
tell people are just craving some sort of. I mean, you saw the fandom results whenever they started releasing trailers
yeah,
at fandom. I mean, the craving for that type of stuff after this long year is there.
yeah,
And I also think that plays into Marvel and even DC a little bit that they don't have to rush stuff out. Like the
right.
people will be there. No one's going to
Yeah,
be so pissed that they're like, I'm swearing all this off.
yeah, yeah. That's what I remember. That was the cool thing that Christopher Nolan said is that he was something to the effect of that he is was either glad or lucky that he got to make his movies when he did because he was they weren't in a rush. He had time.
Right.
And like
Right.
after he was done with that trilogy, it was like, all right, everybody, make comic book movies as fast as possible. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And then it was just like churning them out versus like taking the time to craft the movie the way you want. Even if you did
Well,
it expeditiously, it's like, I mean, Zach's literally getting all the time he needs to complete his thing now. But like
yeah,
before, they were
now.
like, yeah, now. But like before,
Right.
they were like, hey, we need a 2 hour movie in like 9 months. Go.
Right. Yep.
And he's
And
like,
he still
what?
had to maybe make some connections that left things open for other directors using those properties moving
Right.
forward, like Patty Jenkins, etc. And Christopher Nolan just had to focus on his movie. He didn't even go into Batman Begins thinking that he would make a trilogy or
Right.
even make a trilogy after Dark Knight
Yep.
with Heath Ledger's death.
And that's what's cool about Matt Reeves and them dedicate, straight up saying, this Batman's going to be in his own world. It's like, all right, well, now Matt Reeves can take all the time he wants. And he gets to craft it kind of in a really cool way because he gets to do a Gotham PD show and build Gotham out more on HBO Max while the movie is out. You know what I mean? So, like,
Yep.
streaming services have, honestly, everyone loves going to the movie theater. There are people
Yep.
that love going to the movie theaters, but there are even more people that love watching movies at home and not having to deal with other motherfuckers.
Yep.
So you put shit out on streaming that people really want to see, like they're gonna pay for it. They'll do what they need to do to get there.
Yeah, how many times before the Snyder Cut was released, like last year, were we like, look, if they were just like, here's Snyder Cut's version, you can watch it from the house, you can own it at $200, both of us
Yeah,
were like, yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
will.
yeah. I remember getting texts from you in different scenarios, like, all right, it costs $100, but you get his full vision on Blu-ray. Would you do it? Fucking yes. Like,
Without a doubt.
yeah, no question. I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyways,
I
back to
think
Marvel.
everyone's moving to, everybody's moving to good. It's just been basically a shitty year for a number of reasons. These are
Yeah.
just cherry on top moments.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, the dynamics of the entire world are changing. Like, it's not
yeah,
just going to movie theaters, it's working from home. It's
Yep.
changes in traffic patterns because more people are working from home. It's
Yep.
changes in decorum because people have to do different things they're not used to, like wear masks or stand behind plastic sheets, or it's just this world is and has changed straight up. There's no like
Yep.
getting around it. So it's like fucking adapt in the ways you see fit or, you know, prepare to perish.
Yep. Yep. Everyone has to adapt to the moment and be respectful of people, and then we get all the fucking movies we want.
Right. It's to me it's a win-win because I'm not a people person half the time anyway. So,
Oh, yeah.
but I did think one of the cool things about what's happening with Marvel and the idea of the multiverse is, now there's rumors of them picking out different actors to play different versions of heroes in different timelines. And the biggest example that was put out was like Tom Cruise as Tony Stark in an alternate timeline, or John Krasinski as Captain America
Yep.
in an alternate timeline. And I love that idea. You know what I mean? Like if they're not going to be permanent people, like have fun with it. And so if we were to recast all of the not all of the characters, you don't have to go through everybody, but like all like let's say most of the main Avengers, um, like who are the people you could see in those roles?
Well, I definitely on both of our minds is Tom Cruise because I think
Right,
he was kind of listed as kind of the main get at the time.
right.
Um, so I think everyone kind of looked at that, but I like the idea of John Krasinski, but that would officially rule him out as
Right,
Richard Reed now. And so
right.
I think maybe people would look at that and think, oh shit, he is Richard Reeves.
Yeah.
And
Or
not
is it
thinking that,
Richard
oh,
Reed?
it's
It's Reed
supposed to be.
Richards, isn't
Yeah, I'm sorry, Reed Richards.
it?
So I think people would look at that like, oh man, we finally got it, not
Yeah.
realizing maybe not. So I think the Tom Cruise one as Iron Man is the safest bet because people were talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, even having like I don't know, I remember like even was it Josh Hartnett or Ryan Felipe that for Captain America? I
Honestly, I
remember
could
that
see
guy.
Ryan Philippe as Hawkeye.
Oh yeah, that would be a good one.
He's got that look.
Yeah, I mean, I would like. God, there's so many people. I mean, do you even take the chance to show some of the old Fox X-Men in
I think
cameos?
I don't know about that, but I would say that's how you bring Deadpool in.
But wouldn't that establish that it truly is a multiverse and these events did happen? You may not have liked all of it, but it was a different universe.
Yes, potentially yes.
Because then you could draw some of those characters over at some point if you wanted to. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at James McAvoy making an appearance as Professor X at some
No,
point in some
not at
random
all.
spot. So,
It's
I
one thing
mean,
to like have fun versions of different ones, and then another thing to like see some of the ones that shouldn't be there show up like that.
right.
Or shit, maybe that's where you bring in Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Get that Disney cameo in the one way you could that would kind of make sense.
Yep, I agree.
I think
I
that
mean,
would be
it'd be
cool.
nice. It'd be funny to see John Krasinski as Captain America because I know
Yeah.
he tried out and was pretty close to that, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he was also pretty close to. Oh no, I'm thinking of the Workaholics guy. The guy that plays Dennis on Workaholics was like the second choice for Star Lord.
Oh wow, that's funny.
Yeah, so that would have been a funny one.
I think you could do. Oh gosh, I just had it in my head. Uh, Dang it. I mean, that's a perfect time to bring out the alternate Spider-Mans of the past.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
Maybe see
yep,
Toby or Andrew Garfield and give them probably Toby more than Andrew because Andrew was pretty hardcore Sony versus
yep,
where like Toby was like the first Marvel big screen hero.
right.
So that would kind of make sense more. Um, you could. There was a time when they were wanting Joaquin Phoenix to be Doctor Strange. That would be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I did hear that. I also heard like Jared Leto for Doctor Strange at some point,
Yeah, I don't know if
but
Disney will
he'd
touch
be
him
tied
with
up.
that.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, Gosh, I don't know. There's just so many options. Like you could have. That's
But you
probably where you.
definitely need characters that have already been shown. Are
Right.
we agreed on if we're
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
fun
In
casting?
one way or another.
Yeah,
Like the X Men weren't shown in the MCU, but they have been shown and they're well known. So like, yeah, you could do
right,
like the McAvoy thing or whatever.
right.
Um, and honestly, I would not be mad at all if they brought Fassbender back as Magneto. I really liked him as Magneto.
Same here. It's just it seems like I mean, yeah, it just seems like once you introduce those characters, you just have to be
People
careful
are
with
gonna
those
get
characters, I guess.
confused.
Yeah, because then they're going to be like, oh, well, then everything that just happened in
Right.
that universe is part of this universe. That does seem like a
That's kind of a tricky thing to play with, and probably too convoluted for them to even want to get into.
right,
But they did come up with an entirely different way of time travel, so who knows?
right. Yeah,
I was
that's
trying to
true.
think who
I
else.
mean,
Who? What about Thor?
yeah, I'm trying to think who was. I know that a fan casting had like Alexander Skarsgård, the guy that played Tarzan.
Oh yeah.
Thor. I think Tom Hiddleston tried out for Thor at one point. That would be funny.
Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious.
Have Thor
Even
run
him
into.
being like Loki esque and being like, "No, I'm Thor."
Right.
That'd be
But I mean,
funny
if
as
they
hell.
brought in something like I don't know, trying to think like an older actor like Harrison Ford or somebody to play like maybe Odin is still alive in a different universe.
Ooh,
Or
what if they brought back Edward Norton as
as
Eric
Hulk.
Bane, but like in a different timeline? I don't think he would do it, but
No, I think he gets a difficult rap to work with as
yeah,
well. Yeah, I think you're right.
that'd be pretty
Um,
cool though.
maybe yeah, maybe like a I don't know. I'm trying to think of actors that would just play maybe slightly older versions of the characters, but we did just see
Hmm.
an older version of Captain America. I was thinking like maybe a Pierce Brosnan type
Oh
that would
yeah,
play kind of a strong-jawed, kind of older superhero. But again, we don't really address that until we saw Captain America age. We hadn't really seen superheroes age that much within
no,
the timeline that they had shown us.
right.
I mean,
What about
we see how Thor looks and he's young looking
um
compared to his age.
yeah. So I was talking to this other guy today that I kind of work with in a sort of manner, and we talk a little bit about comic book stuff, and he's listened to the podcast. But we talked about the other day who could feel like a Wolverine, and my first thought after everything I've seen is like Shia LaBeouf. Uh, I think he honestly, in my opinion, would be a badass Wolverine, especially if he
He has the
bulked up.
height. Yeah, yeah, and he has the height too.
Yeah. Uh, but someone that came up in mind today is Carl Urban from The Boys, even though
Oh
he's
yeah,
been a Marvel character.
yeah.
Um,
See, but this is like the danger spot of there are a lot of actors, including Keanu Reeves, that would be good for the role because we're thinking of Hugh Jackman a little bit
mm-hmm,
his look,
mm-hmm.
and we're like, oh, these are dedicated actors who do it, and you know that they're going to go for a way younger.
Yeah, I
I mean,
know.
they what 2000 was the first X-Men movie, and so Hugh Jackman was young then.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. It's a little odd, but I
Zac
just
Efron as Wolverine.
man, I don't know. I don't know if he would be a Wolverine. I obviously he can do like the muscle and stuff, but I
But do we
Wolverine.
expect the muscle for the first version of Wolverine? Because Hugh Jackman's
Yes,
little in the first
yeah.
X-Men.
I think so because I mean the way they get their people bulked up for their roles now, I think you don't
Okay.
have a small Wolverine in the MCU.
Yeah, it's different now. You're right.
I but honestly think they'll go more comic accurate and get someone more proportionate size wise because Hugh Jackman's like 6'4" or whatever, and
Yeah,
I think they'll go more comic accurate, maybe like 5'8" to 5'10",
right.
and But Carl Urban is just so fucking badass in The Boys, and he was a character already in Thor Ragnarok.
Yep.
Um, but I think he would be fucking badass.
Yeah, there's no doubt he could do the role.
Yeah. But going back to Efron, I don't see him. I don't see Zac Efron as Wolverine. I could see him
Yeah.
getting the look maybe, but I don't see the depth of emotion and like broodiness that Wolverine goes to. I don't see that in Zac Efron at all. He
There's
could
got to
surprise
be a
me. I mean, I've been
role.
wrong.
There's got to be a role for him, I would
Yeah,
imagine. But
I
he
think.
seems like a Cyclops, maybe.
Ooh, see, now you're talking. And we may have said this before, but I see him much more as a Cyclops than a Wolverine. I also, I've seen him fan cast a lot as like either Nova or um, the time traveler guy that was supposed to
Oh,
be in Guardians of the Galaxy. Adam Strange,
Adam
is that
Warlock. Yeah, Adam Warlock.
Adam Warlock? That's right.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean that would be pretty good because he's supposed to be the perfect human, and I mean, yeah, I guess I could see that.
yeah,
I do think that I think we're both in agreement that they don't recast uh, Black Panther.
yeah. I honestly, my thoughts on that is, especially if you're gonna go into a multiverse and play with timelines, that maybe Michael B. Jordan is Black Panther, um, to kind of pay homage to Chadwick in a way,
Yep. Yeah.
or Shuri. But
Yeah.
gosh, I can't even imagine what they're going through to try to figure that kind of thing out,
What a fucking badass.
dude. For reals, stage
Like
four
that.
colon cancer, and you're
Nobody knew.
fuck.
Dude, what about is it Emil Hirsch? Is that how you
Yeah.
pronounce it? What about
Mm-hmm.
him for Wolverine? What he could
God,
bulk up.
I gotta look that guy up. Hold up. I'm
Yeah, I'm
on
trying to
his.
think what else he's in, but I just
Yeah.
saw a fan cast picture of him.
Oh yeah, I like that guy a lot.
Yeah,
He was
I
in
think he's a good actor.
he was in that Into the Wild movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Honestly, he'd be a really
Um,
good Wolverine. I'm looking at photos of him right now, and he's got the literal like sideburn chops. Like
yep.
it grows the right way. Like if you know what I'm talking about, he has that hard. It's in multiple pictures. Like whenever you Google his name, there's like four pictures that come up, and then a little overview under it. But like all the ones he has a beard in are all have the same like hard angle chops into the beard. I mean, that might be the most spot on shit I've heard. And he's 5'7". He's my age. He's 35. That's
Yeah, there you
goddamn
go.
perfect, honestly.
Yep. Yeah, that
Holy
would be a good
shit,
one.
that's a real good one. Nice call.
And you would have to imagine that the plans that they have for X-Men are going to not show a seasoned team. You
Right.
know, they're going to show them starting out, but you wonder how that does interact with the already really established universe that the Avengers have. However, they are moving to the Young Avengers. Um, so, I mean, who knows? I mean, eventually you're going to have the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and whatever version of the Avengers we have all fight probably Galactus. So they'll work their way there. It just may be, honestly, 15 years from now, which is weird to think. And we'll be
Dude.
50.
Yep.
We'll be 50 with the number one podcast in America.
That's right. And being jacked out of our fucking minds.
Yeah, so I don't know. Beyond Tom Cruise, I think we're just kind of guessing because flipping back over to the DC world, we want to see Ryan Reynolds cameo as
Oh,
Green Lantern. So
he is. If he gets that, he will be in my top three actors of all time because of all the things he's gotten to accomplish as a creator. I
yeah, it'll
mean,
light the internet on fire and just show you that, okay, people didn't like your movie. All right. Jeff Johns was creative co-director on this. Yeah,
yeah,
it's shitty. But
yeah.
guess what? We'll give you some time. We want you back.
Oh man, him getting to redeem himself through Deadpool and then through Green Lantern, and then Dude, he's so funny now that he's like kind of the ad guy for like Aviation Gin
Yep.
and his phone company Mint Mobile. Like
Yep.
every one of his ads are fucking hilarious. They're not just like kind of funny. They just hit that real nail on the head funny about what they're trying to do with it. I just he's so good. I
Well, I don't.
man.
Was he? So he was a co. He was a co-owner of the gin company, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I guess he like
that
a
sold
majority
for
investor type co-owner.
yeah, it sold for $600 million.
Yeah. And now he's
So
got this
he's doing well.
yeah, he's got a mobile phone company, not a phone company, but a mobile company called Mint Mobile. And
Oh, I saw that commercial with Honey I Shrunk the Kid guy.
yeah, with Rick Moranis, bro,
Yeah, that's so
you
funny.
are on god level if you're getting Rick Moranis to do something in front of a camera.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything in so long.
And for all, I don't know if you know the backstory behind that, but there's a reason why he kind of left Hollywood in a lot of ways.
Oh, I did. I didn't know why.
So his wife died, and he decided to take care of his kids,
Oh,
and
wow.
so that's kind of like one of the main reasons he like stepped away is like he it was too much,
Wow.
and he's actually got some albums out. He's like a musician, and his albums
What
are
does he
actually pretty good.
What does he play?
I don't know if it's just guitar. I don't know if he's like a multi instrumentalist.
Oh, okay.
But
Is he singing on it or?
I think he is singing on it. I think he writes and sings. I'm looking it up right now to kind of give you more of a breakdown. Um,
God, I would love if he did a cameo in the new fucking Ghostbusters movie.
yeah, I don't know if he is, but yeah, he's got quite a few couple albums.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, I'm
I
looking
guess he
at
did
his.
some music for Little Shop of Horrors too, but
Yep.
he's got an album called The Agoraphoric Cowboy. Um, yeah, pretty
Interesting.
cool.
Well, yeah, we keep getting off topic, but yeah, Tom Cruise's Iron Man is the way to go. They would.
Bring Rick
It
Moranis
seems like
back as Eric Bana.
Tom Cruise with his cameo weird. Well, it was more than a cameo, but his weird Tropic Thunder role. He seems keen to like make a cool thing for
I
people that want to
agree.
see stuff.
Yeah,
So I could see him right up the alley as long as now he may say that he actually wants to do an Iron Man stunt and actually fly in a suit. So
mm-hmm.
maybe that's a wiggle room around.
Ooh,
But
man,
he would be up for it.
he's making a movie in space, so
Exactly.
whatever, do whatever you want. Apparently, Rick Moranis has signed on for a Honey I Shrunk the Kids sequel called Shrunk.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
he's been away from acting for 24 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and he left. Sorry, I'm reading some stuff.
I do see where it
Um,
says Rick Moranis isn't coming back for Ghostbusters Afterlife.
he is or
So
he isn't.
he is not.
He is not. Yeah, that's kind of what I
Yeah.
thought. But again, there's still time. The movie's not out yet.
Yep, you don't. It keeps getting pushed back. So
But yeah, pretty incredible person.
yeah. Well, all right, man. I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll try to be back in a week or so. Hopefully, some new stuff comes out. We do kind of take our time with it. We're not trying to just push stuff out for no reason. We want to have a purpose behind the episodes. So that's kind of why we're giving it some time in between stuff right now because there isn't a lot of stuff going on. But at the same time, things pop up immediately.
Yep.
But thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you, and we will be back next time with who knows what we're going to talk about. But yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for having us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.